go to Aaron Katersky on the phone with the latest. Aaron, you've been tracking this. What can you tell us?
I'm right by the banks of the Hudson River on the New York side, Terry. The NYPD says the helicopter with passengers aboard went down closer to the New Jersey side of the river. Right now, I see police and fireboats in the water assisting with the search and rescue. You may be able to hear sirens behind me. A number of emergency vehicles have been racing down the West Side Highway adjacent to the river to aid in the response, but it is closer to the New Jersey side. I have a good view of where it appears the helicopter went down. According to police sources, there are believed to be fatalities in the water and on the helicopter itself, but we don't have an exact number just yet, Terry.
And Aaron, is there any information about who might have been on this helicopter? I know a lot of there are tourist trips up and down the Hudson River in a helicopter to see New York's magnificent skyline. There are all kinds of business people up and down the river all the time. Is there any indication of what kind of chopper this was up there?
No, and no telling which kind yet, although it's believed to be a passenger helicopter, not a law enforcement helicopter, according to sources. Terry, as you say, there is a heliport right across the river in New York from where the chopper went down. A number of different points where a helicopter could take off for, as you say, a skyline tour or to take businessmen to the airport. Helicopters in the sky, not unusual here. And from time to time, there are accidents, but no telling who was on board this one. But it was believed to be occupied, and there are believed to be fatalities.
You know, we all remember the plane that landed safely in the Hudson several years ago. Now, how common are air disasters over that river? And I know there have been proposals to get a better control of the airspace over that river.
There have indeed, and there was a tourist helicopter that collided with a plane and crashed back into the river with tourists. I think they were from Italy, if I remember correctly. This was a number of years ago during the Bloomberg administration, and we've seen other incidents involving helicopters. The water is quite cold, as you might imagine, Terry. So depending on how long people may have been in there, survivability is going to be an issue. From my vantage point across the river, I can see a ton of emergency vehicles and boats in the water. Several helicopters are circling the crash site. There was what looks like a cargo ship in the Hudson that's been stalled so as not to create any wake. And a number of ferry boats, commuter ferry boats, have been brought to bear in case they're needed. But right now, it looks like they're staying put. They don't want to disturb or cause any chop in the water.
Okay, Aaron, thank you very much for that. We're now hearing that at least 4 people were on board that helicopter. That's according to the Fire Department of New York.
It's time for Vantage Shots, images that tell the story. Thousands gather in Istanbul for protest against the arrest of Mayor Ekrem İmamoğlu. UK's National Mapping Service maps out the country on Minecraft using around 100 billion blocks. And climate activists pour blood red dye into the pond at the US Embassy in London. Finally, we are taking you back in history. On this day in 1912, the Titanic set sail from England. It was on its maiden voyage to New York. At that time, it was the world's largest ship. Within a few days, the luxury liner hit an iceberg and sank, killing 1,500 passengers. We are leaving you on that note. Thank you for watching. We'll see you tomorrow.
Genel Başkanımız Özgür Özel sizleri burada yatıyor. Kürt demokratların oylarını getirebilecek kişileri Hepinizi saygıyla 20'den fazla yabancı kuruluşa
And now we move to the devastating tragedy in the Dominican Republic, where a horrific roof collapse at a popular nightclub in the nation's capital, Santo Domingo, has claimed the lives of at least 218 people and injured over 200 more. The event, which drew a crowd including politicians, athletes, and other prominent figures, turned into a nightmare shortly after midnight when the roof suddenly gave way. Tragically, the Dominican singer Ruby Perez was among those killed. The Ministry of Culture announced a tribute to honor his significant contributions to the country's art and the merengue scene. For the past 2 days, families of victims have endured an agonizing wait outside the wreckage, desperately seeking any news of their loved ones who were inside the club when the disaster struck. They've been sharing photos with authorities, clinging to hope in the face of unimaginable loss. Authorities have vowed to continue their efforts until every victim is accounted for. However, the grim reality is setting in. No survivors have been pulled from the debris in over 24 hours. And the Dominican Republic's presidential spokesperson has now stated that the operation is transitioning from a search and rescue phase to the recovery of bodies.
I have right now, under the rubble, my sister and her husband. As for the other questions, no, I'm not happy with what's being done. It's been too long and that puts them between life and death. It's been too long to begin with. They've lasted there too long and that is crucial. Here time counts.
We learned that there are 2 relatives of ours. Their vehicle was here. There are videos of them dancing here, and that's how we found out. So far, they have not given us any clues. We have gone to the hospitals, we have searched. We have been attentive when they take the bodies out and nothing.
President Luis Abinader, who is among the many grieving, attended the funeral service for Nelsie Cruz, the governor of Montecristi province and sister of former Major League Baseball star Nelson Cruz. Former Major League Baseball players Octavio Dotel and Tony Blanco also lost their lives in the collapse, as did the son of the Public Works and Communications Minister. Earlier reports indicated that 155 people were in fact rescued from the rubble and transported to hospitals. However, the exact number of people inside the Jet Set Club at the time of the collapse remains unclear. As the nation mourns this immense loss, investigations into the cause of the roof collapse are expected to begin soon. We will keep bringing you the latest updates on this story as it develops.
Now to Santo Domingo, where the death toll is rising and hopes of finding survivors fading after the roof of a nightclub collapsed on Tuesday. The death toll is now up to 218, according to officials. About 300 workers are still searching the rubble of Jet Set nightclub. The club reduced to a pile of rubble there, a pile of concrete. Among hundreds of victims are former Major League Baseball players, a fashion designer, and a Dominican politician.
Search and rescue efforts following a deadly nightclub roof collapse in the Dominican Republic transitioned to a recovery phase on Thursday. Authorities said the death toll had risen to more than 220 people. Mourners wept outside the Jet Set Club in Santo Domingo as crews sorted through the rubble. The roof of the nightclub collapsed after midnight Tuesday. Since then, anxious families have gathered outside the wreckage for news about their missing relatives. The tragedy struck during a concert by popular Dominican singer Ruby Perez, whose life was honored Thursday during a funeral service attended by the country's president. The concert had drawn politicians, athletes, and other prominent figures. It remains unclear exactly how many people were inside the nightclub when it collapsed. And the government said the cause of the incident would be investigated once recovery efforts wrapped up.
And now from President Trump's catchphrases, we now move to crackdowns. This week at the 2025 Border Security Expo in Phoenix, Arizona, a new vision emerged from the Trump administration's top immigration officials. Todd Lyons, the director of Immigration and Customs Enforcement, insisted that he would like the agency to implement a system of trucks that rounds up immigrants for deportation, similar to how Amazon delivers packages around the U.S.
We need to get better at treating this like a business, like Amazon Prime, but with human beings.
Now, Lyons, alongside President Trump's border czar Tom Homan and Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem, even praised the use of the Alien Enemies Act to deport Venezuelans and possibly other immigrant groups. In fact, Tom Homan backed the commander-in-chief's move, dismissing legal objections from judges and reaffirming that family detention is still on the table.
We need to buy more beds. We need more airplane flights, and I know a lot of you are here for that reason. Let the badge and guns do the badge and gun stuff. Everything else, let's contract out.
Now, according to UC Berkeley's Deportation Data Project, the scope of arrest has widened dramatically. People with pending immigration cases, even those previously released under supervision, are being swept up. Many immigrants are regularly checked in with ICE and complain they're now being arrested without warning. Recently, the wife of a Salvadoran man who was wrongly deported by the Trump administration vowed to fight for the release of her husband.
This so-called administration error has destroyed my family's happiness, my children's innocence. Kilmar, if you can hear me, I'm still fighting for you. Your brother, your mother, our children are still fighting for you. We're not going to give up hope.
Meanwhile, cross-border travel between Canada and the United States has also plummeted. And the Department of Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem praised President Trump's border efforts, hailing a historic fall in border encounters. Now, according to Noem, encounters at the border have decreased by 94% since Trump took office, and in February, the United States saw the lowest number of encounters in its history.
We have 94% decrease in encounters at the border, and in February, we had the lowest number of encounters in the history of this country. That is incredible to see that kind of a turnaround in that short amount of time, and that's because of all of you in this room.
As deportations become streamlined, contracted out, and automated, the question isn't about policy anymore. It's about humanity. And in this relentless race to deliver, one has to wonder what happens when the system forgets that it's dealing with people and not with packages.
The Trump administration has made immigration policy a priority, and since taking office, it's a position that's led to confrontations with leaders of sanctuary cities. Now we're seeing some scale back protections while others ramp them up. Sanctuary cities typically limit their cooperation with immigrations and customs enforcement to protect undocumented immigrants from deportation or prosecution despite federal law. However, this week, New York City Mayor Eric Adams issued an executive order to immediately give federal immigration officials access to Rikers Island so they can handle gang and drug-related criminal investigations, a move that reinstates ICE at the prison after a 10-year ban. Adams had several meetings with Trump's border czar Tom Homan about addressing the immigration issue in his city and committed to protecting hardworking immigrants while focusing on safety concerns related to repeat offenders. Although Adams did not sign the recent Rikers Island order himself, instead his newly appointed First Deputy Mayor Randy Mastro signed it, writing in the directive, "The safety of the city of New York has been jeopardized by violent transnational gangs and criminal enterprises, including transnational gangs such as MS-13 and Tren de Aragua, that have been designated by federal authorities as foreign terrorist organizations." Mastro tells CBS News the executive order is carefully written to comply with New York's sanctuary city laws, which allow the city to cooperate with investigations into certain crimes, including murder and rape. City officials are prevented from cooperating in deportations since they're classified as civil matters. The New York Civil Liberties Union released a statement in response to the order saying, in part, By giving ICE the keys to Rikers Island, the Adams administration is once again selling out New Yorkers for Trump's dangerous deportation regime. Meanwhile, Colorado lawmakers are moving forward with the bill that looks to reduce cooperation with ICE, limiting the release of records to immigration officials, including from public schools, colleges, and child care centers. Senate Bill 276, sponsored by State Democratic Senator Mike Weissman and 2 other Democratic state representatives, would also guarantee ICE could only access public schools and colleges with a court-issued order, subpoena, or warrant. The Denver area has become a focal point of immigration debate due to its significant immigration population and incidents involving alleged members of Tren de Aragua entering an apartment unit last summer. The complex closed earlier this year after months of controversy. Immigrant rights groups, the ACLU of Colorado, and several education advocacy organizations testified in favor of the bill at a hearing this week, while 3 groups opposed the bill, including the town of Castle Rock, Save Colorado, and the Colorado Association of Chiefs of Police. The bill now heads to the Senate Appropriations Committee before going to the Senate floor.
Stocks opened lower this morning despite President Trump's announcement of a pause on his reciprocal tariffs except for China. On Wednesday, the market surged on that news. As trade tensions between the U.S. and Beijing reached new levels today, China signaled the door to talks is open. Natalie Brand brings us the latest.
With a 90-day pause on reciprocal tariffs in effect, the Trump administration says it's already reviewing new trade offers from around 15 countries.
We're setting up with the Chief of Staff's office a very orderly process to prioritize countries and to make sure that the countries that are most important for getting this to the finish line are the countries that we bring in first.
China is not part of the pause, and the administration is ratcheting up pressure for Beijing to negotiate, pushing tariffs on Chinese goods up to 125%.
In a statement today, China's Commerce Ministry said the door to talks is open, but dialogue must be conducted on an equal basis with mutual respect.
I think President Xi is a very smart guy, and I think we'll end up making a very good deal for both.
The high tariff means a $100 product from China could now cost $225. Kinderhouse Toys in Northern Virginia is starting to consider the impact. Everett Pyatt opened the shop with his wife more than 40 years ago. He says about 80% of his toys are from China, and this could change how he stocks up the store.
Usually what happens is that the average sale goes down a little bit. People start looking for less expensive items. And so we tend to stock up more on middle range items because that's where the clientele is interested.
Pyatt is closely watching what happens next and hopeful a deal can be reached soon. Natalie
While Wall Street has lost more than half of yesterday's historic surge, stocks opened lower this morning despite President Trump's announcement that he would pause all reciprocal tariffs except those imposed on China. Tariffs on Chinese goods are now up to 145%. In a statement today, China's Commerce Ministry said the door to talks is open, but dialogue must be conducted on an equal basis with mutual respect. The high tariff means a $100 product from China could now cost $225. A Virginia toy maker is starting to consider the impact. He says about 80% of his toys are from China, and this could change everything for him.
Usually what happens is that the average sale goes down a little bit. People start looking for less expensive items. And so we tend to stock up more on middle range items because that's where the clientele is interested.
The president of the European Commission said the EU will pause its plan to impose retaliatory tariffs on U.S. imports, matching President Trump's 90-day pause.
No one has a better deal than Australia at 10%. Now, President Trump has announced another change in policy overnight. We have, of course, got a better deal than any country on the planet in the announcements that President Trump made just last Thursday morning. But last Thursday morning, I described this as an act of economic self-harm. It's quite clear from the response of the markets that that announcement is doing harm to the United States, is doing harm to its prospects of employment, inflation, all of those key figures as well.
It's been good to see overnight some de-escalation of the tariffs from the US, albeit suspended for 90 days. But it still doesn't change the fundamental premise, which is that we want to continue to advocate very strongly on the world stage for free trade. We just do not think tariffs and trade wars are the way to go. We think that's got huge impact on global economic growth. We are a country that has benefited, as I said this morning, from our history incredibly well by advocating very strongly for...
We had a big day yesterday. There'll always be transition difficulty, but we had in history, it was the biggest day in history, the markets. So we're very, very happy with the way the country's running. We're trying to get the world to treat us fairly.
Mr. President, can you give us a reaction to today's stock market drop and also give us a sense of the next steps with China?
Well, I haven't seen it because I've been here for 2.5 hours, so I'll be seeing it. I think Scott went out. Scott, you want to have a statement on that?
Sure. Look, the up 2, down 1 is not a bad ratio, or up 10, down 5. And I think as we have talked about, as we go through the queue and settle with these countries who are going to bring us their best offers, we will end up in a place of great certainty over the next 90 days on tariffs. But we had very good inflation numbers today. Oil's down. We had a successful bond market, so I don't see anything unusual today.
And next steps for China, sir?
Well, we'll see what happens with China. We would love to be able to work a deal. They've really taken advantage of our country for a long period of time. They've ripped us off beyond anybody. Nobody will have great respect for President Xi. He's been, in a true sense, he's been a friend of mine for a long period of time. And I think that we'll end up working out something that's very good for both countries. I look forward to it.
Mr. President, China retaliated today by reducing the number of American films that can be shown there. What's your reaction to them now targeting cultural exports from the United States?
I think I've heard of worse things.
How close are you to the first country coming to actually make a deal with the United States over tariffs? Is it days, months?
Well, I think it's very close, but we have to have a deal that we like. We don't want a deal that's going to be a bad deal, or I could make every deal in one day if I wanted to. I could do this all in one day. If we can't make the deal that we want to make, or we have to make, or that's good for both parties, it's got to be good for both parties. And then we go back to where
There's new executive action that aims to counter China at sea. President Trump signed the order this week to overhaul American shipbuilding and shipping. Trump's directive authorizes Elon Musk's Department of Government Efficiency to investigate underperforming programs in both military and civilian sectors. One under scrutiny is the Navy's Constellation-class frigate, a project delayed by repeated design and scheduling issues. The first ship expected to deliver in 2029, 3 years past the original deadline. According to the order, the Navy and Coast Guard must each evaluate their shipbuilding operations within 45 days, in coordination with several agencies, including Defense, Transportation, Homeland Security, and Commerce departments. A maritime action plan is expected by November. It will propose new strategies and funding priorities to reinforce the United States' capacity to build and maintain ships for military and commercial use. Trade provisions in the order call for new port fees on vessels connected to Chinese ownership or construction. Additional measures include potential tariffs on imported shipbuilding equipment and stricter enforcement of harbor-related charges. Officials say the goal is to discourage companies from diverting cargo through Mexico or Canada to bypass U.S. regulations. Data cited by the White House show U.S. shipbuilders produce less than 1% of global vessels. China, by comparison, builds roughly half. To support the initiative, the order creates a maritime security trust fund and introduces incentives aimed at attracting private capital to shipyards, dry docks, and training programs. Reaction to the announcement has been mixed. Some lawmakers argue DOGE lacks the capacity to address long-term labor and infrastructure problems, while industry advocates such as the Shipbuilders Council of America say the effort could lay the foundation for revitalizing American shipbuilding. The move follows years of bipartisan concern over China's expanding presence in global shipping and ongoing warnings about the readiness of the U.S. fleet.
A U.S. campaign targeting Yemen's Houthi rebels is growing ever more intense. In the last few days, we saw a strike that killed at least 13 people in Hodeidah on the Red Sea. And we've also seen strikes around Sana'a, the rebel-held capital of Yemen, Sada, which is a stronghold of the Houthi rebels, and other areas. These strikes started about a month ago, and under the administration of U.S. President Donald Trump, Trump has said these strikes will continue as long as the Houthis continue to threaten ships in the Red Sea and surrounding Middle East waterways. For their part, the Houthis say that they're going to continue to stand up against America. They continue to target U.S. MQ-9 Reaper drones and shot one down just the other day as well. They say they've shot down over 20 during the ongoing Yemen war. Now, there aren't any signs that this conflict is going to stop soon. In fact, the U.S. is sending another aircraft carrier to the region and already has one in the Red Sea. And B-2 stealth bombers are stationed at Diego Garcia in the Indian Ocean and are believed to have been part of this campaign targeting the Houthis. So, from all sides, it looks like this conflict is going to continue, and it remains just as dangerous as ever for civilians.
And as the United States imposes new sanctions on Iran, Tehran is busy expanding its drone capabilities near its borders. You heard that right. According to Iranian news outlet Mehr News Agency, the Iranian army is expanding and equipping its drone bases across its border. According to the report, the commander of the Iranian Army Ground Forces announced the setting up of these drone bases. Heydari said that the ground force of Iran's army has been using modern as well as advanced weaponry with long-range precision strike and smart capabilities to counter any threat or conspiracy against Iran's territorial integrity and security of the country. US President Donald Trump has threatened Iran with military action. Trump has demanded Tehran must do a nuclear deal with America or face bombing. And Tehran has denied building a nuclear weapon and has pushed back against Trump's demand for direct talks.
We have weaponry that nobody has any idea what it is, and it is the most powerful weapons in the world that we have. We have weaponry that nobody...
Our top focus tonight in a stark reminder of the enduring threat of nuclear conflict. The United States is pushing forward with the development of gravity bombs. What exactly are they? A class of weapons so destructive that they could reshape the face of war. Our next report telling you all that you need to know.
As wars rage in Ukraine and West Asia, global tensions are invading new frontiers. The world is bracing for a new chapter in the drama of power and deterrence. As nations flex their military muscle, the spectre of nuclear weapons casts a long shadow. an ever-present reminder of the devastating potential lurking beneath international relations. The US has been quietly weaving a new thread into its nuclear arsenal, one that could redefine the shape of military might and strategic deterrence. Donald Trump is ordering the speedy production of advanced nuclear weapons.
We're very powerful. This country is very powerful. Let me tell you, it's far more powerful than people understand. We have weaponry that nobody has any idea what it is, and it is the most powerful weapons in the world that we have. More powerful than anybody, not even close.
Well, Trump isn't revealing, but America is secretly developing a new type of nuclear weapon. Specifically known as the B-6113 program, the new weapons are called gravity bombs. They mark a forward leap in precision-guided nuclear technology. A single B-6113 gravity bomb is 24 times more powerful than the Hiroshima bomb. Gravity bombs are essentially free-falling munitions relying on gravity for kinetic force. They're also the new focus of significant advancements, particularly with the B-6113 program. Dropped from strategic bombers like the B-2 Spirit, the B-6113, powered by gravity, precisely reaches and destroys hardened, deeply buried targets like bunkers, command centers, and silos. The US nuclear arsenal currently includes over 3,700 active warheads. It's a mix of intercontinental ballistic missiles, submarine-launched missiles, and strategic bombers. This arsenal is part of the broader nuclear landscape dominated by major world powers. The United States, Russia, China, France, UK, India, and Pakistan are among the nations with operational nuclear capabilities. The developments mark a period of high tensions among nuclear-capable nations. The quest for advanced nuclear weapons is a race for strategic advantage in a world where non-proliferation agreements are losing meaning. Bureau Report, WION, World is One.